Now, I said the product is very effective on animals as well. And one thing it does on animals too is that anything that requires weight in order to be sold needs this very product. Anything that requires weight in order to be sold. For example, if you talk about things that requires weight, you understand that catfish, for you to sell catfish, it requires weight. For you to sell some poultry, for example, broilers, it requires weight. And even rabbits themselves, they all require weight, or cattle. All of this requires weight if you want to sell them. But the question is, does all animal need weight in order to be sold? Despite the fact to say that the product is used on all animals, it has a clause to it. And what is that clause? There are some animals that don't need weight for them to be sold. For example, we have boilers, what do they call them? Poultry, layers. Now, layers, people go into layers business because of what? Because of egg production. And one thing about layers is if they get big in size, it becomes a problem. The more bigger they have, the more difficult it is for them to lay egg. And that is why for some layers, when they get bigger, something happens. We know they must lay egg, and for the fact that they would lay egg, they have to force themselves to do that. And when they force themselves to lay this egg, at the long runs, they tend to have prolapse. Now, prolapse, this is when a bird try to lay egg and it forcefully shoot out the egg. At that process, the anus tends to come out. And what happens? When other birds tend to see the anus out, they tend to peck on the anus, which actually leads to infection. So one thing we tell people is, even if we say that all animals need a product, it has a clause, and that is what? Layers. Layers are not that under boilers, under poultry. They are not meant to make use of this product because of what it actually do on them. It makes them bigger in size. The same thing also applies with catfish. There are several ways and methods of applying the product on catfish. All of these things will be on the PDF that would actually be sent to you. So it is very important you take your time to do what? To read and assimilate the information on the PDF that we sent to you. The product is very effective. The mode of application you also find on the PDF. If you have any questions, if you have people who need the product and who tend to get more information about it, and they are anywhere, you could always fill the form. The forms, all the details of how you tend to request for the product, how the product gets to you, all of those things will be shared to you. But first and foremost, we talked about training. You need to understand what the product itself does, and this is the little training we are trying to give to our best. And we feel that the more information, the more you go deeper, the more you start and you go deeper, the more you tend to understand the product the more. Understand that there's so much opportunity here. The first opportunity is to make sure that you can actually move about 100 pieces of the product. Then, if you can do that, then we now go on a higher basis. Pause.